Hi, new day, new reasons to give thanks. Paul's letter to the Philippians is the inspired part of God's Word that we're looking at in this series. Chapter 1, verses 12 to 14. Today we're being ambitious and chomping off 3 verses. Verse 12. He writes, "Now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I'm in chains for Christ. And because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear." That's God's word. Paul noticed that everybody was probably concerned. He too was concerned. He was going to go be a missionary. He was going to be sent out by these congregations, go tell more people, and he was arrested. So now what? It seems like it's going to harm the gospel. It seems like, don't worry about Paul. It's gonna harm the gospel. It's gonna harm the spread of the gospel. It's gonna harm Jesus' mission. But Paul is able to see already at this point that what's happening to him is actually going to be a benefit. You don't always get to see that. There's no promise in the Bible that 100% of the time you'll always be able to tell some good thing that comes out of whatever bad thing you're going through. No way. A lot of the times you won't. You just won't. You won't be able to see anything good that comes from it at all. Maybe years later or generations later. Maybe you never do and your kids never do. But once you're in heaven, the Lord is able to explain all of this to you and say, you see how when that happened and then that happened, and I had it all planned out. You just couldn't see it. You just had to trust me. Sometimes you do get to see. And this is one where Paul's already able to say, I can tell that God isn't hindering the gospel. I was arrested, but I thought that was the worst thing that could have happened. Well, it actually turned out pretty well, and he could already see why. It's become clear through the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I'm in chains for Christ. People began to realize, that's Paul. He's a Christian missionary. That's Paul. He's here in jail because, well, he was talking about Jesus, this man from Israel who was dead and then came back to life. Tell me more about that. And people got to know him, Paul the Christian. If you want to know about Christ, go talk to that man. And this is good. This is a great thing. These are people who wouldn't have known about Jesus except, well, there was Paul kind of stuck there talking to them. And because of his chains, another benefit is that the brothers and sisters, the Christian brothers and sisters, which is what we are too, they're becoming encouraged. They're becoming more confident. They're witnessing, well, he's in jail and he's still finding ways to talk about his faith. I'm walking free. I definitely can find ways that I can talk about my faith. And they dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear. They had seen his acting as a role model for them, and they give thanks for him. It kind of motivates them, it encourages them, and they want to get out and tell other people, their family members, and invite them to church. And they're bolder about saying, well, I'm going to go to church today, or my faith has really helped me get through this kind of a time. Are you already noticing some of the benefits that are coming from being stuck inside your house, or in quarantine, or with social distancing? Are you seeing any good things that are coming out of it at all? People have mentioned to me that they're just glad to spend more time with their kids, or that their spouses in close quarters, yes. Are there more fights? Maybe. But you are getting to know each other better, and you're connecting in ways you hadn't for a long time. And maybe those are just some little ways, but who knows how it advances the gospel. And that's really the key. What Paul is noticing is not kind of the typical American way of saying, well, this bad thing happened to me and I actually grew and I got a lot better because of it. That's kind of me focused. It's actually serving to advance the gospel. I'm thinking not about myself. I'm thinking about that person. And I want that person to know Jesus. And I want that person to be in heaven with me and with Jesus someday. And however you can see this pandemic advancing the gospel, that's really the best thing that can come out of it. The other point that is important in this section is that Paul is living as a Christian in a governmental society, in the palace guard kind of society. He might have preferred to have insisted on his Christian rights, or if he didn't have any Christian rights, at least his Roman rights or religious freedom kind of rights, and kind of made a stink and said, I shouldn't have to be putting up with this for my faith. He chose not to. He kind of won him over with love and with kindness and friendliness and being a good prisoner and being a model citizen. Good for him. The doors opened for him, and he could talk about Jesus, and people were okay with him doing that. I'll read to you what somebody said, and I think it was pretty wise. They said that they were noticing a lot of Christians, fellow Christians, I should say, being very resentful of social distancing, especially not being able to be in church like we normally are used to. But he says, but let's be blunt. Reckless believers, by being sick or not following the guidance that we're given about health and how diseases spread, reckless believers can transform themselves from angels of mercy to angels of death, and the rest of the world would be right to fear our presence. So you don't want the name of Christ or all of Christians to be looked at as scary and people to stay away from because we're so insistent or pig-headed on disregarding what everyone else says and just insisting that I want to do how I want to practice my faith in this moment the same way as I always have. So that's why we're doing things a little bit differently, trying to be winsome, trying to still maintain a decent relationship with our neighbors, understanding that we're not some loonies who are just throwing all of our health to the winds, and their health, by the way, too. We care about them, and so we'll work around this for a while. A few days ago, I received my census letter, and here, while I'm in quarantine, a government recommended quarantine, living as a citizen, as a Christian, I get my census thing, and I'm able to fill that out online and complete that from my home. Christian and citizen. And then I got my mail-in ballot arrived at my house. So that's here to send off in the morning. So it'll be another way that you can act as a part of your government, and also as a Christian. You're living your faith in all of these things. And maybe you see it, maybe you don't sometimes, but you're a citizen of two kingdoms. So whatever you can do for following Christ and staying close to Him and His Word, while also being respectful and obedient of your government, that's great. Keep up the good work. Reasons to rejoice, right? We'll read on and study a couple more verses tomorrow. God bless you. Till next time.